for you.
It takes a lot for us to cover, one little 1095 import, doesn't it, Brandon? The three of us in one room, this is perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's certainly that time of year where we got to be thinking 1095s, and we have a solution that can hopefully streamline and improve that process for you.
Well, and really, Brandon, just to give a little background on 1095s, just so you know, we help some very, very large employers. And the one thing that we continued to hear from them over the last few years of doing 1095s is that they don't have the resources on their staff to be able to do the pieces they need to do every day to keep up on the solution inside a product, okay? And even our smaller employers that are required to do 1095s, whether they're self-insured, different reasons why they do them, even as a smaller employer, the reporting, it takes a lot of time and energy. And what we were finding is that our HR teams were dreading 1095s. Our W-2 teams were on it and they were moving, right? But our 1095 teams were just really having a lot of pains around just the accumulation of data that was needed. And what we found was our providers, so if you're lucky and you have a provider, what's happening is that provider, that insurance carrier behind you is actually collecting all of that data as well. And we're able to get a file from them, and you can ask for that file. And what you're going to see is then we take that file and we're going to be able to import that file with a few edits onto that file. We're going to be able to import that in. And so that way, all through the year, you're not having to worry about ins and outs, ups and downs, change this date, change that date. It is all happening in that file, okay? Now, if you are really 100% self-insured and you don't have that luxury of a file, you can usually make this file pretty easily as well. Import it directly into the 1095 tables, and then from there, print your 1095s, do the push over to green shades, create electronic files from there. Super easy to do. Plus, the other thing that we found, Brandon and Scott, was that a lot of our employers had these non-employee employees that never were coming into their W-2 files, so we couldn't make a 1095 for them. Whether they were board members, they were pension employees, people that weren't in the 1095 or W-2 tables were really painful for our end customers. So we also added in our 1095 import was the ability to import the non-employees to be able to create the 1095s for them, okay? So I think really when it comes to helping people in this crazy time of year between January and, really the filing deadline on these is January 31st. We're lucky. We've had a few extensions over the last few years that have really helped people, but I don't know how long those extensions are going to be. So really helping end employers be able to speed this process up, really gather the correct data. I had one of my favorites this year. He actually did all of this by hand, put it into the system, and then got the file from his provider to double check. And I said, well, as long as you have that file, I can push that right in. Oh, no. So just to kind of give you a little background on how we package this tool too, is not only do you get the employee and the non-employee portions, but you also get W-2 safety net. And Brandon, I know part of the community, we are actually giving this tool now. We're not charging anything for this tool.
Nope.
So if you have it, perfect. If you want it, let us know. But it is something that we know from what we do with payrolls today, this is an absolute must-have for your payrolls. So Scott, I know I'm probably screwing up your slide deck here, so
let's just get right in the product.
You guys are just going right there today, huh?
Yeah.
Perfect. Good. So Scott, you're taking us into Fabricam, your favorite test company, correct? And you're going to just walk us through. What do you think, Scott? Can you do it?
I can certainly do that here. All right. Now, as Deb was stating here, there is a file spreadsheet. We do provide a template that you can actually use on this here. It does get installed with the 1095 import tool. And in your GP code folder here under documentations will be a folder called Implementation Specialist. And then in here you'll see the two template files, that 1095 import sample and then the non-employees imports. we'll just open this up here. And this has the same employee list that you would find in Fabricam, the World Online here, with all the same information here.
So they can kind of mimic that, right, Scott? So if they didn't have a file, or they take what they get from the provider and then mimic, and really it's pretty close. It really, and I hate to see people do this by hand, guys. Don't do this by hand, okay? If your file doesn't have this, let us know. We can help you get that data out and get it into the correct format, okay?
And it opens up in Excel here. And the first thing, once you have your file complete here, and I'll kind of just scroll over so everybody can see this here. Here you can see the 14 and the 16 lines.
Perfect.
And over there you have the cost here.
Which is line 15.
15, yep.
15, 14, 15, 16. Perfect.
What we need to do is, in order to do this, it needs to be a tab limited file here. So when you have that here, and you need to save to a location that basically the tool can access with permissions here.
Got it.
So what I did here is I just put called it new folder right on the C drive here. And there is a limitation. The file name can't be more than 30 characters long.
It's a lot of rules for us today.
Yeah.
So, you know,
we have some
to a lot of easy stuff.
Yeah. We have some checks and balances in there, though.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go ahead and call that there.
Perfect. Okay. We want to close that file so that way it can read it. Okay. Perfect. Good.
And we hop over here under HR payroll, and this will appear under the utilities. We'll just expand that here. Under WS tools, and there's the 3 that Deb was talking about.
Perfect.
And then we had done some testing on this earlier here. Normally this would be blank, and it'll show that it hasn't been imported when you do it for the first time.
But you can do multiple imports.
Correct.
So,
and it does overwrite each set. So just know if you bring it in and you're like, oh no, what do I do? How do I get them out? Don't have to worry. They're gonna be erased. So.
And just select it and then click on process.
Perfect.
Yeah, so that whole process, you know, you could have used the Excel to make all your necessary changes to the employee's information, and that brought them into the appropriate tables. So now you're able to print them right within GP.
Perfect. Yep, we can print them as long as we have them here. We can print them from here, or at this point we can pick up Green Shade Center and go ahead and push them right over to electronic filing and electronic delivery. Okay, so that is really a nice part. What this to me is the headache part of it, getting it to this stage. So, and our providers, our health providers are doing a great job of getting this information. Most of our customers this last year, if they asked for the file, they usually had it same day, okay? So if you haven't started on your 1095s yet, or you just don't really know how, what, where, let us help. This is a great, easy tool to use. And if you can see what Scott has on his machine here, this all came in from a template file, okay?
Yep.
And then here we're printing the entire form, so it's not like we have to have a form or anything. We can put these right in the mail. You know, nice and easy for us to work with, okay? So Scott, I'm gonna have you take us back one more time, okay? So I have you close out of here for me for a second, and I'm gonna have you go up to your edit W-2s here for me. So some of you might say, hey, you know what, we just, you know, we got majority of them in from using a template, but we had that one or two, you know, that one or two. So Scott, go ahead and use your looking glass there and just grab our Pilar. Perfect. You know, she's always our great test candidate. And then hit your 1095C there at the bottom. Okay, and you can see all that information is exactly where you would expect it. So whether you want it on the print, whether you want it here to be able to do some, you know, some further edits, or be able just to push across to whoever's doing your electronic filing. So kind of a nice, easy way to take. And I don't know, Scott, how many did you have for employees in that file? Did you have quite a few?
No, that one was only, I think it was about 50 or 60 or so with the test data.
50 or 60, and I think it went in like 2 minutes. So you know what I mean? Definitely, it gives you a lot of efficiencies when you think of how much work it takes going into these 1095s, right? And the other thing I want to show is, Scott, on yours, if you close that one for me, okay, We didn't talk much about the W-2 safety net, and I know you want to still show the non-employee import. So you want to go ahead and grab that non-employee import, and then we'll do the safety net.
I can certainly do that here.
Because, as we've got two teams working on W-2s and 1095s, they're both kind of hitting the same areas. So we want to make sure that everybody is safe when we're doing it.
And then here it is, the same thing. It's the same setup. It's the Excel file here that we'll want to save. I'm just going to save that to the same folder here, just so it's all in the same location here.
Tab delimited again, so perfect.
Again, close out the file so it can be read.
Back to utilities we go.
And then import non-employees right here. As you can see here, it gives the option to start it with a prefix here. It just starts with all these, so it should appear at the end on the sequence number there. And we'll just want to click on that.
Perfect.
Fast when there's two of them.
Yeah.
Very fast.
Yep. And then they weren't included on the test wage file here, but if we go to print our W-2s, we can show here that on the 1095s, they should now be in the range of employees to select here. Come up here. You can see there's our two non-employees that were just imported.
Perfect. Good. Nice and easy again. Because I know those non-employees gave a lot of companies that first year of doing 1095s, and even the second year, a lot of headaches. How do I get it? How do I do it? How do I include them and everything? And now they're included. They're going to go over again for your electronic file. Perfect. So, Scott, I've got my HR team working in my 1095s. My W-2 team, of course, is long done. But my W-2 team gets really nervous because sometimes my 1095 team has to do things like recreate the 1095s or,
edits.
The edits, just, you've got people in there now on your W-2s because if they're doing something on the 1095 form itself on an employee, they're actually on that W-2 data. And I think people are just really nervous to making sure that all their data is still 100% correct and as they left it. What do you have for that, Scott?
That would be the W-2 safety net here.
Perfect.
All right, fairly simple tool. Asks you to select the reporting year. This one just has 2017 on it.
Perfect. Sorry, Scott. I probably screwed you up, Scott. Sorry about that. I had to do the 1095 non-employee one first, so my fault. But sorry, Scott. Say okay there. Real super easy. What you're seeing here is this one. It was your two non-employees. I screwed you up. Sorry about that, Scott. This one right here is really one of my favorites because, as we're using the combination 1095 W-2s, if somebody goes to delete the W-2 file, because your W-2 file has to be there before you can start doing your 1095s, it's going to give you that prompt, do you want to run the safety net? And all that safety net is doing is just capturing the data that's in that table at the time of recreate. So it's not replacing, it's not doing anything like that. It's just doing a quick capture. So if somebody says, hey, I don't know, I know I did it over here, we can look at those tables. You can look at those tables with either SmartList, if you have SmartList Builder or SmartList Designer, or have your partner or your consultant come in and just take a look at them, and we can restore from those as well. So just a nice, easy backup. With the rest of the pieces now interacting between W-2 tables and 1095 tables, we thought we needed a little bit more security there. Okay. Good. Well, guys, I'm sure we probably have tons of questions from the audience on W-2s and 1095s, and I'm hoping everybody was successful last week in getting all their W-2s filed, and now have switched over and have started moving towards getting those 1095s wrapped up.
We got one here.
So I'll pop that window out right there, Scott.
Oh, there it is. That's what it is.
Perfect. So, Scott, who do you have from the audience that might have questions for us?
Tammy wants to know if we are recording this, so she can rewind and review it if necessary. We certainly are.
Sure are.
Yep, it'll be published out, and you will get a link to the recording, right?
So it's possible that you could get it today, but you'll for sure get the link to the recording tomorrow in an email.
Perfect. Tammy, great question. Thank you so much for sending that in. I'm sure Brandon's probably got some goodies he'll send your way for asking a great question. You like how I volunteer for the goodies?
Yeah,
Brandon?
absolutely.
So sorry.
I like giving gifts. Yeah.
Got another one here from her as well. Wants to know where we would update the line 15 data.
Oh, perfect. You want to go back to the spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Yep.
Really great question.
I'll just pull up the sample one here again quick.
Yeah, so one thing that we didn't do in this spreadsheet is, you know, this is obviously where you could make edits before you import it. So line 15 data
is at the very end here. It's columns AI to the end here.
So if you knew that your minimum costs went from 150 to 170, you could do a quick Control H, find, replace all the 150s to 170, done, re-import, and now you're back up. I wouldn't even suggest even trying to do that in SQL because it's so easy to do it here within the template. Okay. So great question, Tammy.
All right, that is all that I am currently seeing in there.